Algebra is a title selected by Paulo Nazareth for this specific show. Algebra, the word, means, of course, the mathematical operations and equations, but it hides a deeper meaning. It's an etymological meaning that algebra is al-jabr in Arabic. That also stands for the mending of broken bones, for fractures. So the way that Paulo sees his work and the way he conveys his practice is somehow an idea to see equations otherwise. Paulo has this provocation. He invites us to think that everything matters and one thing doesn't exist without the other. I think it's impossible to speak about Paulo Nazareth's work without speaking about Paulo Nazareth person, collective person. His name is already a collective endeavor. Nazareth is the first name of his grandmother, a woman that is from indigenous origins in Brazil, from Aborunaca. She was a non-conforming, rebellious woman that was part of a very tragic episode in Brazilian history in the dictatorship years. There was this facility called Barbacena, where people were incarcerated under the argument that they were mentally ill. But the population in Barbacena was mainly Black and indigenous women and people that were rebellious against the persistent conditions of the slavery regime. Paulo, at a very young age, observed his grandmother lose her name and become a number, as if like in a concentration camp. So when he starts being an artist, he reclaims this name of this woman as his last name, and that's the starting point of his walk. So Paulo describes his entire practice as a decantation of a lifelong performance, one could say, that would be a spiral starting in the kitchen of his mother, Ana Gonçalves, in Palmital, in the outskirts of Belo Horizonte. And the spiral starts there, go all the way to the Americas and the African continent, symbolizing that the way that Paulo's work and the way he perceives the world is not something linear, something consequential. His walks throughout the world unveil that colonial and racial violence are still the scaffoldings of the contemporary world. Paulo is a follower of the Afro-Brazilian religions of Candomblé, where the word work also means an offering. To make a work is a constant dialogue. So regardless of the form that his practice shapes, can be collage, can be painting, can be installation, can be immaterial and material works, he's always like going back to this idea that there's something being put as an offering to a larger idea, to a larger entanglement of people, visible and invisible beings, material and immaterial forces that are conveyed through his works. He has this ongoing series called Cadernos de África that starts from a question. There's like to find out what is of Africa in my home and to find out of what of my home is in Africa. So while he walks, he's totally trying to undo colonial cartographies, to really rethink what makes borders, who creates borders. Paulo's way of working is almost always context-driven and site-oriented. When we started the conversation about occupying the Punta della Dogana, which the way that the first Italian navigators approached the sea, approached the ocean as something to be mastered, to be conquered, generated a whole mentality that was, again, present in the Middle Passage and the colonial navigations. In the Afro-Brazilian religion and many other cultures, the South can be perceived, especially the core South, as like a healing, good luck, energy, cleaning device. To put this amount, to bring back this amount of salt to this building is again a sort of ritual. And what we see might look at the first glimpse as a sort of like a land art or minimal art gestures. But as you walk the triangular shape of the building, you start to realize there's actually a vessel. So the whole perimeter of the South Line is a one-to-one scale projection of a tumbeiro. Tumbeiro is the Portuguese name of the slave ships. So it's actually bringing back the memory of something that happened, but still happens throughout the oceans, the Mediterranean, the Atlantic, and the Pacific as we see today. Paulo doesn't come to Europe. It's part of a preceito of the prescription that he has with himself, with the pantheon of the Afro-Brazilian Yoruba religions, that he would only come to European soil after he crossed by foot the entire territory of the African continent before the Berlin divisions, the colonial divisions. So it's also a way to show that the soil that we are stepping in here, in Venice, in Italy, in Europe, is still being held by colonial and racial violent liaisons. Venezia, where this exhibition unfolds, has a mirror, has an homonymous city called Veneza in Ribeirão das Neves in Minas Gerais in Brazil. Ribeirão das Neves is one of the biggest incarcerated populations in the country. The show happening here is actually half of Algebra. The whole project unfolds in between two Venices. Paulo, whenever he gets invited to do something in this Venice, in Italy, he creates a counter exhibition, a complementary exhibition in Veneza Neves. So Paulo, when he dislocates this Venice to his Venice there, he's actually thinking about you can be an artist showing in Punta della Dogana during the Venice Biennale and all the theatrics of the contemporary art world, not from here but from there, claiming, showing his allegiances, showing that his ground is actually entangled between that. And so the only way to experience Algebra as a whole, as the project, is to attend the two sides of the exhibition and to visit the two Venices.